Hello everyone, I'm Penny Schultz, host of Oakland Leadership. Our guest today is Charles Murphy. Charles Murphy is an attorney, husband, and father, and is known for his dedication to provide the best education for Oakland Community College students. He has litigated jury and bench trials in federal court and state court and has conducted arbitrations throughout the United States. Charles Murphy is equipped to find solutions for people facing adversity and works to find reasonable answers to difficult questions. Charles Murphy is also a candidate for Oakland Community College trustee. Welcome, Charles Murphy.
Thank you, Penny, for having me. It's a real honor to be on your show. I know you're very active in the Orion Township community and serve as the clerk and conduct this show, and I'm honored to be your guest on this program.
I was glad you had time to come. I know you're a very busy person.
That's true. I have a full-time law practice at the Clark Hill law firm in Birmingham, and since June I've been running for trustee of the Oakland Community College, so most of my spare time has been spent visiting different communities, answering questions, giving speeches, and meeting the residents of Oakland County who are concerned about what's going on at Oakland Community College.
I'm amazed how visible you are. You've been everywhere. I see you in different places on Facebook, at different events, so I'm really glad to see that you're out and about in all of Oakland County.
Well, OCC is a big part of Oakland County, and the county is large, so you have to get around to meet residents, but OCC is one of the largest employers in Oakland County. It has 5 campuses. It has a large budget of $173 million. And so it's a very important part of the economy of Oakland County, and it's a driver for students to become educated so they can become productive citizens and have good paying jobs.
I think that that's so important because we want to be productive in our community, and a lot of students coming right out of high school are attending the local community college.
Correct. OCC, for example, they attract a lot of, they have open enrollment, so anybody can apply and be accepted, but about 40 or 45% of the students that enroll at OCC lack the basic reading, math, and writing skills necessary for normal college workloads. So OCC has a real challenge to meet in terms of making sure these students get educated properly and stay in school, because a lot of them become discouraged in the first year at OCC, and there's a real problem of them dropping out without finishing their educational goals.
There's tremendous resources available for students as well.
Correct. OCC has very good developmental and remedial programs so they can address students' needs in terms of these developmental classes. They also provide counseling. As a board member, it would be one of my priorities to review the outcomes and try to push for more effective remedial programs with mandatory assessments so that students get feedback from their instructors and advisors, and also to make more accessible tutoring and advising either face-to-face or online.
That's important for every student and the administrators there at the college.
So at each of the 5 campuses, they do have centers where students can get individualized counseling, and the key as a board member would be to review the quarterly reports that are provided and then push for programs that make those programs more effective so that we can improve the retention rates, which right now about 40 to 48% of the students drop out after the first year. We want to reduce that retention problem so that more students complete their second year.
That's so important. I'm glad that you're looking toward that in the future of gaining the retention for the students to stay in place. And you're also very active in other ways to ensure that that takes place. I would want to touch a little bit about your litigation experience. You've litigated in both the state and the federal courts. Can you talk a little bit about some of those cases and how important it is to be active in that way?
Sure. I've been an attorney now for 38 years. I started off working in Detroit for the Miller Cohen law firm, and then I moved over to what became the Cox Hodgman Gianmarco law firm where I practiced for 20 years. We eventually moved the office to Troy. In 2000, I left and joined Howard & Howard, which is a firm in Bloomfield Hills at the time. Now it's in Royal Oak. But in 2004, I joined the Clark Hill law firm. Clark Hill is the 138th largest law firm in the United States. It's got over 310 lawyers. I practice in their Birmingham office. I primarily do business trial work with a specialty in business disputes, securities litigation, and healthcare. And I've tried cases in the circuit courts in Michigan, the federal courts, and a lot of the securities litigation is arbitration. So I've done arbitrations throughout the United States, including trying a case in Los Angeles on behalf of a broker dealer that sold bonds to a lady in California. So I've got experience trying cases before judges, juries, and arbitrators. For example, in terms of a jury trial, I represented one of the Delphi officers in the SEC versus Delphi case, which was a federal jury trial in the Eastern District of Michigan.
Is that one of your most interesting cases?
Well, that case generated a tremendous amount of publicity because of Delphi spinning off from GM and being one of the world's largest automotive supply companies. And it was a case that went on for many years, both on the criminal side and on the civil side. And the case was tried in 2010. I was involved with my client for 6 weeks before the jury, before we worked out a resolution with the SEC, but the other two remaining defendants in that case spent another 4 or 5 weeks in trial before the jury came back with their resolution.
And I like how you're talking about resolution. Most time, if people can sit down at the table, they can find a resolution to the problem.
Correct. Most of the cases today are required to go through mediation or facilitation, and I would say about 90% of the cases get resolved through the facilitation process. I've served as a facilitator also on behalf of some automotive supply companies, where I'm retained by the parties to review their case, meet with them, and then try to get them through diplomatic means to resolve their differences and come up with a settlement.
That's good. Problem solving. You're known for that. Can we touch on that a little bit?
Well, in addition to doing work where I get paid a fee, I do a lot of pro bono work in the community. And as you know, the trustee position is a non-paying position, so it really represents the epitome of community service.
It does.
So throughout my legal career, I've done pro bono work where I've represented impoverished clients who can't afford to pay an attorney, or young entrepreneurs who are just starting out and they don't have the resources yet to pay for legal counsel, but they're starting up in a business or they're involved in some community activity where they don't have the resources to pay a lawyer. So I've done probate cases for people with small probate estates from their parents who can't afford a lawyer. I've done a lot of work for churches. For example, churches that want to do community service programs outside of the actual faith aspect of the church. In order to qualify for grants from the government, they need to set up separate 501c3s. And myself and other attorneys at Clark Hill that work with me have set up these 501c3s on a volunteer basis for several small churches. Presently, I'm helping a young professional boxer who grew up in Oak Park. His name is Winford Hot Boy Harris.
Nice.
He's 5-0 as a professional.
Did you say Hot Boy?
Hot Boy Harris.
Interesting.
He's 5-0 as a professional. He's not really making any money yet, but I'm assisting him with his promotional contracts, his advisor contracts. By the time he's 10-0, which we hope will be like in February, he might be in line then to negotiate a TV contract to be on a TV card, and then he might start making some money.
We'll have to keep an eye on Hot Boy.
I also work. His trainer has a nonprofit called the Boxing Achievement Academy. Ali Hakim is a former heavyweight champ of Michigan. He's a retired Detroit police officer, but each day he picks up 5 young men from the inner city and he drives them out to the Norwayne Gym in Westland and teaches them boxing, keeps them off the street, teaches them life lessons. So he brings in people to talk about how you speak, how you dress,
mentorship.
How are you doing in school. They have to report on how they're doing in school. And we're working now with Oakland County, Rachel Logren, to find a closer facility along the 8-mile corridor for a gym, so that Ali doesn't have to drive as far to take these boys to the boxing classes that they go to after school every day.
That is so exciting. That's a dream for them, I'm sure, and people are getting involved, so they're sharing what they know.
And when you meet these young men, it's impressive the work that Ali does in terms of, I mean, they're boxers, but at the same time they're young gentlemen, and they're very respectful, and they're learning the right lessons at an early age.
Yes.
Because most of them are in high school, some are even in grade school, but by the time they're 18, they're mature men. They remind you of somebody who goes into the military and they come out after basic training camp and they're a different person.
That's incredible. Mentorship is so important in the lives of our young people. I'm glad to hear about that. That's exciting. Now, you are a father and a husband as well. Can we talk about your family?
Sure. I met my wife, Lori, when I was 18 and she was 16, and we married young. We were married in 1972, so we've been married for 44 years.
That's beautiful.
And we've raised 3 children, Andrew, Bridget, and Caroline. We are from the east side of Detroit, and our kids were born on the east side in Grosse Pointe Woods. And then we moved to Rochester Hills in 1990. So our children attended the Rochester school system. They went to Musson, Van Hoosen, and Adams High, and got very good educations there. And Lori and I resided in Rochester Hills with them until they were out of college. And so in 2006, we moved to Bloomfield Township near Squirrel and Long Lake Road, so I could be closer to my office in Birmingham. So
that makes that nice.
It cut my commute down from 35 or 40 minutes down to about 10 minutes. So it was a convenience for me, and we obviously wanted to stay in Oakland County. We love Oakland County, and we're happy that we moved here from Grosse Pointe Woods.
Yes, indeed. Both of those communities are wonderful communities as well, and good school districts too. Education is so important. You know, we really need to be aware of that at every level, whether it's our elementary, our high schools, or our college level. And I'm glad you're engaged in that and see the importance of that.
Education was very important for me, and I view community college education as the foundation for students to acquire job-ready skills, or the fundamentals to be able to transfer to a 4-year college. I've mentored many law students and employees during my legal career, and I've seen the benefits to them of community college education, along with the benefit to the business community. I had a secretary for several years who studied to become a registered nurse. While she made a great salary as a legal secretary, it wasn't really what she wanted to do for her career. And so she went through OCC and then transferred. As you know, OCC has one of the largest nursing programs in the state of Michigan. But she became a registered nurse, improved her economic status, and wound up doing what she really wanted to do.
And that's what
and
it's
I've had
all
other
about.
assistants who become paralegals or have done other career paths by working and going to Oakland Community College.
So I have been to the campus and I've taken classes in other areas, but I was so impressed with how updated and beautiful the campus is. And I know a lot of those changes were made recently, so we really want people to use the campus. It's there for them. We want them to be a part of the college.
Right. Well, OCC has 5 campuses. Some of the buildings are relatively recent. They do have a capital budget program to make sure the campuses are properly renovated, so they're setting aside a certain amount of funds each year to do those renovations. They hired a facility management company to come in and review all the buildings, because some of the buildings are aging and will need some renovation work, you know, in the next 5 to 10 years. But they do have beautiful campuses.
They really do. You serve on several boards, and can we talk about the Physicians Board?
Oh, sure. So aside from my business experience, I believe my board experience qualifies me to help meet the challenges at OCC. I serve as a public member on the Board of Radiology for the American Board of Physician Specialists. It's a national organization based in Tampa, Florida. They basically provide examinations and certification for physicians who specialize in certain areas. So if you want to become a board-certified orthopedic specialist or a board-certified neurologist, they conduct the exams and rule on the exams. If somebody doesn't pass, they can appeal. And I sit on the board as a public member. I was invited by a group of radiologists based on some healthcare cases I handled in Michigan in the late 1990s, and they were impressed with the results. And so when their public member who sat on the board retired in 2010, they invited me, and then at their general convention I was elected to be on the board, and I've served on it every year since 2010, basically doing 2 meetings a year, one in Tampa in February, and then they have an annual scientific conference every year in June, which can be in different locations, but that's more of a week-long conference, and I would attend 4 or 5 meetings over a 2 or 3 day period during the June meeting.
Your leadership influence is broad. You're here at the county level, you're at the state level, and you're also at the national level. I'm impressed by that.
I've served on other boards also. I was chairperson of the State Bar of Michigan Legal Education Committee for 2 years. That committee basically handles the board examination for lawyers. During the time I served on it, it was more weighted to the academic side, law school professors, and there was a push at the State Bar to get practicing attorneys involved. So I volunteered to do that and did it for several years. I also served with the Oakland Bar Association on a committee that evaluated judicial candidates. So we would be assigned several candidates to investigate and review and interview and talk to other people, and then we would have a vetting meeting with the candidates at the Oakland Bar Association in terms of whether we would endorse them or rate them as qualified or well qualified, et cetera. I've served on the boards of 2 Oakland County law firms for about 20 years. And recently I served on the board of Military Families United, which is an organization that supports families of Gold Star veterans and has also set up the first online Gold Star registry. It's similar to a Wikipedia for Gold Star families, where family members can give the history of the Gold Star veteran, and friends can add to the history. So it's a national registry for Gold Star families, and I was proud to serve on that board.
How can people get more information about that?
Well, there's a website for the National Gold Star Registry,
Okay.
and then there's also a website for the Board of Military Families United.
We'll show that on the program. I want to make sure people are aware of that. Is there any other things or topics that you'd like to talk about that we haven't already covered?
Well, you know, I believe affordable, low tuition is essential for students who are economically challenged. I grew up in a middle-class family, but we had some challenges because my father became an alcoholic. He was a business owner and he owned a printing company, but he developed a weakness for alcohol, and it caused some disruptions in our family, so that by the time I was going to college, I was raised on the east side of Detroit and went to the St. Brendan's Catholic School, went to the Austin Catholic Preparatory School for boys, but by the time I was graduating from Austin, my parents' marriage was basically disintegrating, so we moved to Portland, Oregon with my mother and my sisters, and I worked in a printing company and attended Portland State University at night. Came back about a year later and moved out on my own. So basically I had to work, and I worked at the Chrysler Jefferson Assembly Plant as a welder at night and went to Wayne State University during the day. I also drove a taxi cab.
Oh my.
So while I made money and was working, I also relied on low tuition, which Wayne State had at the present time, at that time, and eventually became a law clerk and went to the law school. So what I see today is that for students to be able to get a college education, they need low tuition, and OCC has one of the lowest tuitions in the state. It's $88 per contact hour this year, and for example, a student planning to go to OCC can budget $6,500 for 2 years of education, which is about 60 to 80% less than what it would cost to attend for 2 years at a state university.
Incredible.
And then the credits that they earn at OCC can transfer to a state university. So if you're economically challenged, OCC provides a great platform for the student to get an education that's affordable so that they're not saddled with unmanageable debt. As of 2014, for example, 64% of the students in Michigan had average debt of $30,000.
Wow.
So OCC has
stifling.
Maintained low tuition, and one of my priorities would be to make sure that the tuition stays low so that students aren't saddled with unmanageable debt.
And you know firsthand from experience what that's like to be able to attend an affordable college.
Correct. And the other thing is the persistence once you get in to stay there. For persons that are self-driven, that's great, but for example, first-time college students, I was the first one in my family to attend college, face different challenges because they don't have the family to fall back on in terms of, well, I have this issue at college, what did you do?
Sure.
So OCC has programs where counselors are available, but students that have questions about persisting need to be educated about the economics of getting a 2-year degree. You know, jobs requiring at least 2 years of college are going to grow twice as fast as jobs requiring no college experience.
Mm-hmm.
In addition, it increases the probabilities of higher income and job satisfaction. Within the last couple of years, statistically, households that are headed by people with a high school education, their average income is $44,000 a year. Households headed by somebody with a bachelor's degree, their average income is $80,000 a year.
Wow.
So there's a great economic incentive to start community college and persist to get the 2-year degree. Not only does it benefit the student and the student's family in terms of higher income, it benefits Oakland County with a more educated workforce that is more economically productive.
It benefits our businesses and our community, and I'm glad you have taken the initiative to run for office. It's going to be very impressive to watch you on that board, and I appreciate having you on the program today.
So is our time up already?
Pretty close.
Okay.
Yeah, yes.
Well, I would ask the voters to support me. It's a nonpartisan race. There's 17 candidates. A lot of the candidates don't even respond to the questionnaires, for example, from the League of Women Voters, and don't show up out in the community at candidate forums. So you have to go down to page 2 of the ballot in order to find the people running for trustee of Oakland Community College. And I've been endorsed by members of both parties, including the Oakland County Republican Party, our county executive Brooks Patterson, and Sheriff Michael Bouchard. And if I'm elected to the board, I'll exercise due diligence and be prepared for every meeting that I attend, and exercise leadership at the meeting to implement the priorities and have an ongoing dialogue with the students, the administration, the faculty, and the community members, and I'll make sure that your voice is heard on the board.
Thank you so much. Excuse me. Thank you so much, Charles Murphy. It was an honor to have you here on the program today.
Thank you, Penny. I'm grateful that you had me on board.
I hope you've enjoyed this edition of Oakland Leadership with Charles Murphy, and I know that you've learned some things about leadership and mentorship and how important it is to take what you've learned and sow it into the next generation. Have a great afternoon, everyone.